Maybe Doug Peterson doesn't think that Trevor Lawrence is as good as we all think Doug Peterson thinks Trevor Lawrence is. We'll talk about that here on Locked On Jaguars.
You are Locked On Jaguars, your daily Jacksonville Jaguars podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
That's right. It is your team every day here on Locked On Jaguars. We thank you for making us your first listen. You can find us on our YouTube page. That's right. It is called Locked On Jaguars. And then you can find us also wherever you get your podcast that you listen to on audio. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. That's right. Place your first $5 bet and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets, guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Shout out to the everydayers for joining us here every single day, and we appreciate you doing that here. All right, let me tell you where we're going, man. By the time we end up with this show today, of course, y'all know the Jaguars lost 47-10. Players, they must play for pride. If anything else, they got to play for pride. Here, we'll talk about that in segment 3 because it looks like a lot of guys are hanging their heads. Segment 2, Trent Baalke needs to go. We'll revisit that. We're going to revisit that until it actually happens, or we think that there's a chance that it's going to happen. But I'll make another case as to why he actually has to go. This ain't got nothing to do with picking players. All right, but first, Doug Peterson's message misses the mark. His message, obviously, if he has a message for this team, they're not receiving it. They come out, and usually in the first quarter, you can tell the way that they're playing that this ain't going to go well. Nothing's going to end well. It's not going to go well for them. And in my opinion, they're lifeless. No matter what he's saying, they ain't listening. And at some point, that leads to trust being an issue, whether or not they're hearing outside noise, whether or not they just don't believe him. Whether or not things that are being addressed by the team, either privately and or publicly, those players don't believe that that's the problem. I think some of those guys, and this has nothing to do with Ryan Nielsen, may feel like the staff that was let go last year was a bit of a scapegoat, and they're not paying attention to the people that are still here. The bottom line is the defensive staff from last year was fired. And I'm not telling you that they shouldn't have been. I'm not telling you that that they were without fault, because if I'm going to sit here and blame Trent Baalke in segment 2, you have to understand that those coaches were also coaching those ingredients or those players that Trent Baalke brought in. But he has a lot to do with a lot of stuff that happened or that has been happening in this organization for the last 3 or 4 years. But he gets autonomy because he doesn't talk. He doesn't face you until the offseason. And then he sits up there with this condemnation, kind of laughing at people that make suggestions as if they don't know what they're talking about. So we'll get to him in a second. But with Doug Peterson, I don't believe that I believe that there's a part of him, and I've seen it from when folks were suggesting that maybe too much was being put on Trevor Lawrence. And this isn't Trevor Lawrence's second season. He said, what are you talking about? I put too much. He's your quarterback, right? And Trevor making decisions that he shouldn't make. And Doug says that we probably don't need to be doing that. And then the very next year he did it again, and it cost him a touchdown in a game that could have gotten him into the playoffs in Tennessee instead of him running a quarterback sneak. You're now seeing Doug say stuff like, we've been here too long to be playing this way. You're now seeing Trevor Lawrence say, we thought we had a good plan. Maybe the plan wasn't that good. You're now seeing Trevor, when he turns towards the sideline, yelling and screaming. A lot of Jaguar fans had one word for that. It was press. I'm not going to take up for Press Taylor because he's involved in this as well. But I think there's a three-headed monster. It's Press Taylor, Doug Peterson, who is the head of it, by the way, and Phil Rauscher. They're all really, really tight. They're all really, really cool. They're like two little brothers, the Doug Peterson, Phil Rauscher, and Press Taylor. but he fired everybody else. And according to people that I know, Mike Caldwell was like a brother from another mother to him also. He knew him for a very long time. We're teammates, coached together in Philadelphia for a long time, and Doug handpicked him because he likes the Tampa Bay defense. I think Trent has his hand in all of that stuff too, but I really believe this is a matter of CYA. And before you know it, what's going to happen is those guys are going to close ranks, and eventually Doug ain't going to say it. Doug will talk about Trevor's talent all day. But the bottom line is, I think Doug Peterson, deep down inside, may have some reservations about the quarterback here. I mean, what else is? He says the offensive line is doing a nice job. They've gone out and added receivers. They mixed in a running game. You can't take up for Trevor Lawrence anymore with pocket presence that he lacks. You can't take up for him anymore with high throws when the team needs him. And I'm holding Trevor to a very high standard because, one, he gets paid the hell to that standard. But two, the quarterback position is so important. And it's almost sacrilegious around here to blame him for anything. But he has taken responsibility. Trevor stands at the microphone and says he has to play better. He pointed out the throw to Brian Thomas when they were trying to get something going. He said, I can't do that. He says, we take turns stepping up and making mistakes. Now, while all of this is admirable for Trevor Lawrence to be admitting, at some point, you know the old thing when guys hold their hand up and go, my bad. They do it in football and basketball, or they hit themselves on the chest. That's on me. That's on me. After a while, you get sick and tired of them doing it. Yeah, that's nice that you're admitting the obvious, but we need more. I'm not going to tell you that it's a great offense. I'm damn sure not going to tell you that the offensive line is great. But there are times when things don't always look terrible on those fronts, and Trevor still doesn't deliver. There are times when if he spins out, reverses out when he's escaping the pocket and turns his back, if he does that thing where he spins to the left, I saw Lil Baby in concert, and Lil Baby kept spinning. He was doing that thing every time he wanted to change where he was on the stage, he'd spin and walk. That's what Trevor's doing. He's spinning in the pocket. He's taking his eyes off of downfield and he's spinning. He spent last night one time he spent last night and he spent away from nothing into some trouble. There's something going on and there's something wrong. And Doug Peterson isn't going to come out and flat out say it. I would bet that if I could be a fly on the wall around him, Doug Peterson does not think Trevor Lawrence is as good as everybody else thinks Trevor Lawrence is. I don't think Doug Peterson thinks Trevor Lawrence is as good as we all think Doug Peterson thinks Trevor Lawrence is good. I don't. I think Trevor has talent. I think Trevor could be good, especially if you surround him with all of this stuff and insulate him with a real good offensive line and give him weapons. I do not think he is that kind of quarterback, though, that can take an imperfect situation and make it better. I don't see that. I just don't. I see a dude with immense talent that makes a nice play every now and then, but I just don't see what everybody, thought that we were going to see with Trevor Lawrence. That doesn't mean he's not a good player. It doesn't mean that he won't be worth that money, because I guarantee you in about a year or two, that's going to look like a bargain with all these quarterbacks that's going to get paid. But the thing is for me, it's not even about something physical. There are intangibles that great quarterbacks have where they leave no doubt that if they don't have success, it is purely on everything around them. It is not on them. I have not been convinced of that yet, and I don't know if Doug Peterson has been convinced of that. The bottom line is Doug Peterson has to do better. They've scored 40 points in 3 games. They gave up 47 last night alone to Buffalo. And they've scored 40 points in 3 games. Mike Caldwell ain't got a damn thing to do with that at all. That's all on Doug Peterson. Doug Peterson can thank his buddy, Trent Baalke, and I say buddy, sort of tongue-in-cheek. I don't know if they're real good friends, but Trent Baalke has to go too. I'll tell you why, and it has something to do with more than just players. We'll discuss that in just a second on Locked On Jaguars. I got to let you know about today's sponsor, man, and that is LinkedIn Talent Solutions. That's right. Man, when you're hiring for a small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you get access to the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn it's not just a job board. It helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else. And even those who aren't actively searching for a new job, they might be open to the perfect role. And LinkedIn will present that to them because over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you are definitely looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. I did it. I had my barbershop staffed in 2 days because I was busy with contractors and regulations and I forgot I needed people to work. So LinkedIn took care for me and it can do it for you. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Segment number 2 here on Locked On Jaguars, where it's your team every day. We thank you for making us your first listen. Glad to be here with you. I'm sorry that we're getting together on these bad circumstances. The Jaguars lose 47-10. You heard it, 47-10. And Doug Peterson and his offense has only scored 40 points on the season in 3 games. Sounds like we know that the problem was not limited to those coaches that were let go last year and may not have even been the problem. Apparently, allegedly one of the coaches yelled, "We're trying to help you. We're the help. You're trying to help. The problem's still in the building." And it looks like they are exactly right. I think Trent Baalke had a hand in helping facilitate the decision to move on to other coaches. I think Doug Peterson probably did that because if he didn't do something, then they were going to remove him and they were going to fire Doug Peterson. And I think the person that could make that call would have been Trent Baalke. I think Trent Baalke was one of those people that wanted the defensive staff run out of the building. Trent Baalke refused to let the defensive staff do some things that they wanted to do last year, according to my sources. It's funny how he's always at practice walking between and clapping, but then you can't find him. Like he's on a milk carton right now when this team is losing. If this team was winning, he'd probably have his face all plastered all in front of press conferences hanging around. But right now, he's absent. This just goes back to some of the things that you hear about Trent. Basically, what is Trent? He's in his late 50s. He's a little bit older than me. But this team is his personal playground. 49ers fans and 49ers media people, they've been hitting me up for 2 years telling me that Trent Baalke's terrible. That he runs the team like a scout, and you can't do that because he's a scout's scout, but you can't run it like a scout. And he's also a scout that wants to act like a coach. And there's just no accountability. There's no accountability. And I do believe that a part of the DNA of this team is coming out, is seeping through their pores. You see, you hear, you feel how this team conducts itself, where Doug Peterson doesn't have. See, when you have a messy person in your organization, and I call him messy because that's the way I feel, and we've spoken to each other and been sort of admirable to each other, but he said things that I found to be weird with how he phrased it. And I got witnesses to that, by the way. There's nothing to really report on. It's just that the dude just has an aura about him of it's all about him. It's not about the players. It's really coach speak. And really what you have is someone sitting here playing like in a dynasty league on fantasy football, and they're running this organization. But he's not just doing it from picking players. I think his entire mindset and his entire the way that he moves, it's almost like something you can't even explain. I think all of that stuff resonates in a negative way with the team and the rest of the players. I really do. And the sad thing about it is somebody who is incompetent is a strong word, but it don't look like it's too strong today. is the person that has the ear of the guy making all of the decisions, who my man Demetrius Harvey from the Florida Times-Union said that he talked to somebody, he spoke to somebody that's close to Shad and said Shad was as angry, and they said that he was as angry as he's ever been. They never seen him that angry before. I'd be angry too. I'd be angry too if I depended on them. And I've been having people call them Beavis and Butthead and everything else. I ain't going to be calling people names for not doing their job well. But I will remind folks that when Trent Baalke was questioned in the offseason about some things, he kind of laughs at. He sits there all coy and he kind of laughs at you as if you don't know what you're talking about. And he just kind of smiles and, yeah, we pay attention to the board. Anybody can say this type of stuff whenever they don't have to actually make the picks. You're right. You're right. There's not one person doing a podcast or one person sitting at his job in his cubicle right now that has to make the picks. We all know that. You do that as a professional, but you do have to make them. You also have to set the atmosphere because he's the number one football guy from an operation standpoint in that building. This team has his personality. Everybody seems to be covering themselves. They don't even coach and play like they trust each other. And I'm wondering, does Doug trust Trent? I'm hearing about bickering and everybody. It's not just me. Everybody's been talking about it all over social media. That maybe there's some sort of difference or some sort of bickering. I'm going to tell you who players like. Players love the position coaches in their room for the most part. Usually you get somebody that, might get on the bad side, but they love the position coaches in the room. If the position coaches don't necessarily like the general manager, I think players pick up on it. There are other organizations that are run, and it seems like everything flows really, really nice from the top all the way down to the bottom. The Jaguars don't play like that. They look like they're trying hard, but it looks like something is missing, something where they don't totally believe in what they're doing. I'm going to explain that in segment 3, why it's important, but why it's also on the players. Players have to have some sort of culpability and some sort of pride when they're out there, because the bottom line is the tape that you put out is on you. And there was some stuff I saw last night. I didn't like the effort. And it's from players that I really, really like and people that I do respect. I'll tell you about that in segment number 3 here on Locked On Jaguars. First, I got to let you know about FanDuel, man. That's right. It is also today's sponsor, as you heard from the very top. And you can start this season with a big return on FanDuel, which is America's #1 sportsbook. Now, I'm going to tell you something, bro. One of the good things about football season starting, other than the record of the teams that I follow is terrible, is that I get to play FanDuel and make me some money. When you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. I'm telling you, FanDuel is the absolute truth. All you got to do to get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's what you get when you place your first $5 bet. I did not stutter. I'll say it again. You place your first $5 bet, and you're going to get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's what FanDuel does. So make sure you tap into FanDuel and visit FanDuel.com to look at odds before you make those bets. And then once you do, stay there and collect your money on FanDuel. All right, third and final segment here on Locked On Jaguars, where it is your team every day. I got to remind y'all, man, your boy is busy these days because Locked On has a new show, and I'm included on it. But this is the difference. There's 2 new shows. Locked On NFL every day, 2 episodes. One with the madman Tyler Rowland giving you a double shot of NFL Espresso early in the morning, and then you can slide right on in and get more of what you get here on Locked On Jaguars. You can get it on Locked On NFL in the Barbershop, where I will bring you some real NFL talk. Find Locked On NFL on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. Players, guys that I know have pride, guys that I know have athletic character, they seem to not be playing well. And it's not going to be about a rah-rah speech. I saw Cam Robinson giving a rah-rah speech last night, and I'm like, man, if you would sit down somewhere. It's more about how you want, even if you don't win. You have to play by play, not allow your disappointment to be shown in your effort. And I'll admit, last night, Trayvon kind of hurt me a little bit because I'm a big Trayvon Walker fan, right? There was one play when Trayvon went for a twist and he had his back to the offensive lineman, and instead of continuing to work, he just kept his back to him, and Josh Allen ran right by him. Trayvon looked like he was under arrest, and like the offensive lineman was the policeman. And I got 2 or 3 texts. There's your boy. And I'm like, look, man, it ain't just him. Did you see Joshua Hines Allen last night? You didn't? Yeah, nobody did. They have to have more pride in what they do on defense. Even when the offense can't help you one damn bit, you still have to just do everything you can, man, and not put out bad tape. And now you got a massive number of injuries in the secondary. And Foye Oluokun is banged up. We'll find out at a presser in a little bit how bad that is. Missed assignments, people dropping balls. The Jaguars look like a AAU basketball team that ain't played together and practiced together, and then they just showed up to the tournament, and they played a team that's been playing together for 4 years last night. That's what it looked like. It looked like a pretty talented group of AAU guys that don't all blend together because they were put together. And I mentioned on the postcast last night how Trent and Doug said that they were intentional to go out and sign players who had played for winning teams. Eric Armstead, Gabe Davis, Mitch Morse, Darnell Savage to a certain extent. By the way, don't when you look at Darnell Savage being banged up, don't look at Seattle being 3-0 and look at Rayshawn Jenkins, what he's doing out there. Just don't even pay attention to it if you don't want to get upset. When you see Calais Campbell still balling at his age, and the Jaguars could have had him for the last 2 years at minimum amount of money, and they decided not to do it, and they spent all of that money on Armstead after they had already spent a whole bunch of money restructuring and retaining Roy Robertson Harris, after they also paid Devon Hamilton. And then they drafted Mason Smith in round 2. And then you start to wonder if guys are just like, man, they don't know what they're doing. Because the team and the fellas out there sometimes look like they're playing and they don't know what's going on. They don't trust it. They don't believe it. So they're just going to take care of themselves and do whatever it is they got to do. Someone mentioned this, like Stephon Gilmore is still a free agent. How come they ain't called him yet? I have no idea. I think they think so much of their own draft picks and all of that stuff, and they keep rotating all of these people in and out of the game as if they're all equal. Well, they're not all paid to be equal. They're not all the same. And too many times in crunch time, I look out there and I don't see your best players on the field. And then on offense, Walker Little, have some pride, man. Cam Robinson, have some pride. I saw somebody say Walker Little was on the wrong side of the line. I don't care what side of the line he was on. He was terrible, jumping all off sides, acting all scared. There's a lot of people that gave him the benefit of the doubt around here as somebody who may not have been given the opportunity or given a chance to really, really show what they can do. Well, you had an opportunity, a chance last night, and you really showed what you can do, which is absolutely nothing. I don't understand how it seems like every single play that they try to run on offense is already figured out before they even run it. I don't understand how other teams can figure out a way to matriculate the ball downfield, and 3rd and 3 is almost an automatic for other teams to make, but 3rd and 3 might as well be 3rd and 12 for the Jaguars. It's all broken. Everything's messed up. So the most the players can do is just to go out and play with a bunch of pride, man, and just go as hard as you can. As it looks right now, are you sure they're going to beat the Colts? How about this? The most winnable game they have on their schedule is the Titans, and I don't even know if they can beat them at this point if they continue to play the way that they're playing right now. This is bad. Sometimes all you got left is pride. It looks like the Jaguars are heading for another top 5 pick in the draft. And they got a hell of a schedule coming up. They got Houston this week, obviously. You know they got Houston twice. They have the Colts twice. They have the Titans twice. Boy, they lose to the Titans twice. Let me go through the schedule real quick, and I'm going to see if I see any game. Okay, they got the Colts after they play Houston. And then they go to London and play the Bears. Somebody said they'll win in London because that's where they always. I forgot who said that yesterday. It was probably Julian Council on Locked On NFL. I don't know that they're going to beat the Bears. All those Bears. Okay, here you go. Here's a winnable game. They play the Patriots at home. You think? Then they play the Packers at home. No way. Then they go to the Eagles. Ugly. Then they play the Vikings at home in a game that everybody probably penciled them in to win. Yeah, good luck with that. And Brian Flores in the way that he's coaching. Then they play Detroit. Don't get me started. Then they're home again against Houston. Then they play the Titans. So right now I see 2 winnable games. They're home December 15th against the Jets and Aaron Rodgers. Ain't no way they're beating the Jets. The Raiders, it's a winnable game, but the Raiders at that point, maybe the Jaguars and the Raiders trade away people at the trade deadline because they know they can't win anything. And then they're home against the Titans. So maybe 4 or 5 games on here, they'll have a legitimate shot to win. But other than that, I think the Jaguars are in a world of hurt. They're in trouble. And I would be very, very shocked if Doug Peterson and Trent Baalke return as coaches next year. If they do it, I think they're going to do it, and that is keep losing. But right now, they should be embarrassed. They're embarrassing themselves. Players, play for pride, man. Play for the name on the back of your uniform and then play for each other. If y'all don't believe in what's going on over there, we understand it. But at least, you know, the fans spend their hard-earned money. They want to see an effort, and they want to see you guys trying. Don't try, do it. Post up here at Locked On Jaguars with me every single day and then make Locked On NFL your second listen. That's right. Locked On NFL, brand new show with Tyler Rowland and myself. Tyler, early in the morning with a double shot of NFL Espresso and me in the barbershop just laid back. I'm a little bit hurt, man. My heart goes out to the people in this city. So many times you have so much promise and you lift it up in the offseason and you respond and then they do this to you. And I can see the hurt and I can feel the hurt on social media right now. It's because you sold a dream every single week and all of a sudden you get let down again. I wish somebody asked Doug Peterson how good he thinks Trevor Lawrence is. Let's see exactly what he says. And watch his body language. I'm going to turn all y'all into FBI agents. You'll watch his body language and see what he says about it. Maybe I'll ask him if I'm on the live today. If I'm not still recording my NFL show, maybe I'll ask him. We'll see. All right, you guys hanging there with me, man. Take care of each other. I know it's hard, but take care of each other because we got, Jacksonville fans. And I'll be back tomorrow with another edition of Locked On Jaguars.